Welcome back, IDC family. If this is the first time joining us, I'm Katie Weaver. I help serve the college students here at Imago Dei Church. We're continuing our series where I get the privilege of interviewing some of our staff elders, and we're talking to Kent Bass today. So Kent, tell us what you do here at IDC.
Yeah, so for the last 2.5 years now, I've been pastor for counseling and member care. So started full-time in January of 2019. Was a little bit part-time in 2018, but full-time January of 2019. So.
Awesome. Great. A very important ministry at our church here, the counseling ministry. So tell us how you came to know and follow Christ.
Yeah, so I think like a lot of our pastors, I grew up in a Christian home. So from a early age, I was in church. My dad was a deacon, Sunday school teacher. My mom was a Sunday school teacher and church librarian, actually. So we were always kind of around the church building Sunday morning, Wednesday evening, stuff like that. And I think like a lot of kids who grew up in church, like after a while, you kind of hear the story of Jesus, and like you expect to hear it, but it wasn't like a new or exciting thing, I think. And so I remember when I was 8 years old, I was laying in bed one night, and for whatever reason, like the idea of Jesus dying for my sin kind of hit me and made more sense than it ever had before. So the gospel wasn't a new thing, but kind of new in that moment. And so even though I certainly at 8 years old didn't know the fullest extent of the gospel, and still feel like at 35, I'm still learning it.
That's right.
But yeah, I feel like the Lord in that moment in my bed was really convicting me of my sin and my need for Jesus, and that was I think that was the overwhelming sense, was I just need Jesus. And so I remember having a conversation with my parents, and then a conversation with the pastor of our church, and so it's like that was kind of the moment that the Lord saved me. And so from 8 years old, really to probably 14 or 15 or 16, that was honestly, I kind of treated it just like fire insurance, right? Like, I know if I die, I'm not going to hell, I'm going to heaven. But there wasn't really a pursuit of the Lord. And then I think the Lord kind of really got a hold of me more. And there was more humility on my part, I think, to recognize that if I say I believe this thing, why do I not live it? And so recognizing some fear and some inconsistency, some hypocrisy. And so really at the age of 16, I think I really started actually pursuing Jesus and following him. So,
yeah. Praise the Lord.
Yeah.
How did that influence your call to ministry? When did that eventually happen?
Yeah, that's a good question. It was not too long after that I felt like the Lord was leading me or pushing me into pastoral ministry. And so I remember being 16, 17 and kind of wondering, is this what I'm supposed to do? Yeah. Mentored by a youth pastor at our church who became a really good friend, and he moved into pastoral ministry. And so I had some good examples of faithful pastors and that had good relationships with. And so I think 16, 17, I kind of wondered, like, is that what I'm supposed to do? And I remember it was not too long after that, maybe 18, where that was actually something I wanted to do. And so, from the age of 18 until I was 31, here's this long journey of kind of moving toward pastoral ministry and training for it and preparing for it. So,
yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, praise the Lord. How about spend a little bit of time telling us about your family? So, who your wife is, how you guys met, and then about your kids.
Yeah, so my wife's name is Hope, and we've been married for about 10.5 years now at this point, so September of 2010, and we've got 3 kiddos, Silas, Anna, and Grace. So Silas is 7, Anna's 5, and Grace is 2. And so Hope and I met at a Christian sports camp in Western Pennsylvania. So we are the classic camp couple, camp romance. Not really. But yeah, it was not kind of a love at first sight thing. We actually really annoyed one another when we first met, and I was a button pusher, still am to an extent, but grew up with 2 brothers, and so the banter, the button pushing was just a natural part of how I interacted with people, particularly at a younger age. But so yeah, I recognized that she was one of those people that I could easily push her buttons, and that brought me a lot of joy. And so I pushed her buttons. She was a little offended by that, caught off guard. It was my first year of camp. It was her 3rd year, so she's like, who is this first
Right,
year? Who's
right.
this first year counselor coming in, thinking that he can do this, that, say whatever? And so, we became friends toward the end of camp. But it wasn't like a eyes lock across the room like this is the one. So
Right.
it was about maybe 7 or 8 months after we met and had become friends that I felt like, okay, like this is something different, I think. And so from that moment, kind of started to pursue her, and we it's funny, the the blank cut. No, let's keep going. Bring it down. I was thinking about our like engagement story, and I had this plan, and I'm not like a super planner. I'm not like we're gonna map out everything, and so for me, like this was like a big deal, like to have a plan for engagement, and it was gonna be outside, and the day that I was gonna propose, it rained.
Of course.
And so it's raining.
Does, yeah.
So instead of outside at this gazebo like her hometown, I proposed to her in her parents' kitchen right after we had Chick-fil-A for dinner. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which, I mean, at this point, like one of the reasons we came to Wake Forest was because there are a ton of Chick-fil-A's around here. So, I mean, Chick-fil-A is a big deal. But,
okay. So, did you cater it at the wedding also?
No, that would not have been allowed.
Okay.
But we did have Chick-fil-A for our son's first birthday. So Chick-fil-A catered for that. So
yeah. Cool. So 3 kids. Maybe just give us one fun fact about each of them. If you can.
Yeah. So Silas loves animals and has a ridiculous memory, and so he loves facts about animals. So if you get in a conversation with Silas, he will not stop talking about animal facts. And he loves snakes, and so that's always interesting. He likes the idea of animals. He doesn't always like the actual presence of them. And so we had a snake in our yard a couple days ago, and he can rattle off all the facts about snakes, but he was like, "Daddy, will you kill that snake?" You know. So he did. So he loves kind of animal facts. Anna is our sweet, affectionate. Like she wants to give everyone a hug. She loves every person she meets, and so we actually have to kind of try to help her like understand who's an okay person to hug and kiss, and who's not an okay person to hug and kiss. Like we don't kiss strangers, the first time we meet them, but she would do that. So Anna's super affectionate, and I don't know, Grace. She is a little bit of both of them, but she's just got a sweetness to her, a little bit crazy. We affectionately refer to our kids as goofy, silly, crazy, and so Silas is goofy, Anna's silly, and Grace is crazy. But she's sweet, and just it's fun watching her watch the bigger kids and like model after them.
Sure.
So,
very fun.
Yeah.
Love that. So you came on staff here part-time 2018, full-time 2019. How long have you guys been at IDC?
Yeah, so we moved down to Wake Forest, like a lot of folks, for Southeastern.
Or Chick-fil-A.
Well, that was like maybe the deciding factor.
Right.
We moved down in January of 2012, and so really about a month after being here, we got connected with IDC. So really within like the first 5 or 6 months of IDC being a church plant, we kind of got connected, and obviously I've been here ever since. And so got plugged into a growth group, and I was able to lead a growth group after about a year. And actually, we in different ways like tried to leave IDC, pursuing not for bad reasons, but just wanted to be open to what the Lord would have for us. And so considering different church plants and different places, and kind of took steps toward a couple different church plants. And as we took those steps, it just felt like the Lord was saying, "Nope, I want you to stay." And so we came thinking, we'll be here 3 or 4 years. I'll get a degree. We'll go find a job, someplace and move on. And every kind of attempt at that, it was like, nope. And then eventually it was kind of, well, maybe we should stay, So
Cool. And what is your favorite thing about this church?
Yeah, so I've been thinking about that question, maybe more than the other ones. I think maybe because it's really hard to hone in on one thing, and so I'm gonna push against the question a little bit and throw a couple things out there. Is that okay?
Yeah.
I think one would be the practice of plurality. So coming here, not being a pastor, and having a really a narrow view of what pastoral ministry was, even as someone who grew up in the church, but only having witnessed like the senior pastor model. I just had a very narrow view of pastoral ministry and what it meant to shepherd, and even with the Lord, I felt like leading me toward pastoral ministry. I had the ideas. preaching and teaching, and maybe you do some hospital visits and things like that. You show up in folks' homes, and they go over for dinner time and things like that. And you got an office, and you're doing sermon prep and stuff, and so which is certainly a component of shepherding. But so I think one of the things I've appreciated most about IDC is the healthy practice of plurality, and really not being a pastor for the first 4 years that we were here, 4 or 5 years that we were here, but watching our pastors shepherd has been a real blessing to me. And I feel like any positive experience in pastoral ministry that anyone has with me, I cannot separate that from the model that I feel like I was able to witness and be served by from our pastors, and many of those guys I get to serve with now. So that's been a huge blessing, and I've just seen the benefits of plurality in so many ways, especially as a pastor. And so anytime folks are leaving IDC, and when we talk about church planting, like we want folks to plant with a plurality, because I think it's so healthy and helpful. And so I'd say the plurality. And then the other thing, honestly, is it's community, but more of the people. So when I not just the idea of community, but individual people. When I think about ever leaving IDC, what makes me sad about that is the people that I won't be in relationship with. And so it's funny, sometimes you'll meet new folks. Certainly before COVID, when the lobby was kind of busy, and there's always new people to meet, and I'd meet someone, and how long have you been at IDC? Well, a few months. And it's well, I just love IDC, and I don't doubt that they're being genuine. They say that, but when I think I love IDC, I don't think about necessarily the structure, the rhythms, the way the music sounds, the preaching, all those things I do enjoy and love. But for me, thinking about what do I love about IDC, people's faces pop into my head, and so I think just been blessed to be in healthy community and healthy relationships.
Yeah.
So,
Which is cool, because that's a main component of the vision here
Yeah.
that I see with gospel community and mission.
Yeah.
So that's excellent. So as far as your job goes with pastor of counseling and member care, what is one of your favorite aspects of your job here?
Yeah. I think my favorite part about specifically being a counseling pastor is I get a front row seat to watch the Lord do amazing things.
Right.
And sometimes that front row seat is it's messy, right? Mm-hmm. It's a little bit scary. I don't always know what to say. I don't always know what to do, but I'm thankful that the Lord does. But to be able to sit down with an individual or couple, and they're experiencing brokenness and they're experiencing pain, and to know that we've got a Heavenly Father who cares so much about that pain, and that as we kind of pursue Him and press into Him, seek to be faithful, seek to be obedient in the midst of those struggles and those hurts, I've just been able to see what happens over the course of 4 months, 6 months, 8 months, a year, and where the Lord leads people. And I think apart from counseling, I don't know that I would necessarily always see that, right? That's the nature of counseling in many ways. It's a private ministry, and so you don't always get to hear those things, and with kind of sharing that pain and sharing that burden also comes with being able to share the joy of what happens when the Lord brings people through, shows Himself to be faithful, and so I think it's the best part. It's not like the front row seat at a movie where you're doing that, but it is you get to experience in a very tangible way what the Lord is doing in people's lives.
So tell us, when you started to feel that call to pastoral ministry around 16, 17, what led you to the counseling direction over just senior pastor?
Yeah, counseling was never on my radar.
Yeah.
I never thought about it. I never took a psych class in high school, a psych class in college. I got to Southeastern, was very kind of, MDiv, pastoral, kind of track minded. And so I think I was in the preaching track. Okay. With pastoral ministry, thinking what if you're going to be a pastor, you need to be able to preach, which I think is still true. Right. And so as a part of that degree program, I had to take the intro to counseling class, and through a really interesting kind of set of circumstances, which we don't have time in this forum to kind of go into, the Lord used that intro class to really open my eyes to the importance of counseling as as pastoral ministry. And so I was super happy to feel like, not that I didn't want to preach, but like standing in front of people it's not my thing. Like that's personality wise, it's not really who I am. Like I enjoy teaching, but I'm much more comfortable and I'm much more excited about sitting down with a smaller group and having that kind of conversational pastoral interaction. And so yeah, in that intro class to counseling, and it was kind of one of those just moments where you're kind of taken back and I was like, I think this is the direction to go here for pastoral ministry. So yeah.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So that kind of wraps up our substantive questions for today. So we're going to jump into some more personal, rapid-fire questions for Kent. I personally have the privilege of sharing an office with Kent while Donnie is on sabbatical, so it's been good to get to know you through that. And I've also noticed that you have been voted world's best IDC pastor named Bass.
Yeah, I think
I just want to hear the history behind that.
I think I'm the only IDC pastor named Bass in the world, so it's not in the whole world. Like,
wow.
Is there another church with the initials IDC that has a pastor named Bass? Like, probably not.
Probably.
I don't think so. So no, it was one of my growth groups. They were
okay.
being kind and sweet to me, and so
okay.
they made that for me. I didn't make that for myself and put it on my wall. I'm not Michael Scott, world's best boss with the mug. Yeah. No.
But incredible prestige there, so I feel honored to share that office space. Kent also is a big sports guy, so tell me what your favorite sport is, and then also if you could play any sport in any arena, what would it be?
Goodness, that's a really hard question to answer. My favorite sport to watch is probably baseball.
Okay.
My favorite sport to play is probably a tie between basketball and golf. So
very different.
Yeah, extremely different. So to answer what would I play and where, if I could play golf at Augusta National, where the Masters is played at some point before I die, I feel like life would be complete. Yeah. So
excellent, great. Obviously, you had some experience at camp, so maybe just give us a glimpse into one of your worst camp or camper experiences / maybe that's actually one of the best ones because it's a good memory or a bad memory.
That's actually a really hard question to answer because I feel like I didn't really have one of those like terrible, awful experiences either as a counselor or with a camper. Obviously, there's hard stuff. When you're with the younger kids, you're changing pee sheets the next morning, and so I can say that right. Pee sheet is not a bad word. So when you're with the 8-year-olds and the kid wakes up and like you're trying to rush those sheets out while kids are eating breakfast because you don't want to embarrass the kids. Like there's like the stress of like here's this cabin at 10 kids and like we got to get these sheets to the nurse's station. So anyway, so there's that. And with the older kids, there's always like there's the knucklehead stuff that 14, 15, 16-year-olds do. I would say maybe the weirdest, hardest experience was one of the summers I was there was when swine flu was really bad.
Okay.
If you guys remember swine flu.
I know.
And so we had so many campers and counselors come down with swine flu that we had a nurse's station, but it only had like 5 or 6 beds, I think, inside this building. So we had to make like this essentially, like it looked like a refugee camp, honestly. Like that's the best way to describe it. There were cots and like lean-to tarps set up, and we had probably at one point like 40, 50 like campers just on these cots like out in the open because everyone's coming down with the swine flu. So that was pretty wild. That was my first summer on leadership, and so I felt the stress of that a lot more than as a counselor. We're just like, okay, like I send a kid to the nurse's station and go with my cabin. It's like, no, all hands on deck. Like there are kids dropping like flies here. So thankfully no one got not sick, super sick or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, you look out and it's like, this is not camp. There's like 50 people. What is happening here? It looked like an apocalypse or something. So,
How many years did you do camp as a counselor or leadership?
2 years as a counselor and then 2 years on leadership staff.
Cool.
So,
Cool. I've also worked at a camp. Love camp.
Yeah.
Big camp gal. Okay, last question. Big Office fan.
Yeah.
So tell us your favorite episode or clip of The Office.
Yeah. So similar to what do I love about IDC, I can't narrow it down to one. So I'm gonna give you 2.
Okay.
In terms of episodes, Dinner party is you got to have the dinner party episode, so that's fantastic. So many great one-liners in that one.
Just push it in.
Yeah. So it's his plasma screen, right? So dinner party's great, and then the other one would be Dwight Christmas, and I think it's the last season. That episode, for whatever reason, with Dwight as Belschnickel, and the punch is Glühwein, I think, is the punch that he makes, and Daryl has a little bit too much to drink, so he's a little extra jolly, and is really upset with Jim because he thinks Jim hasn't put in a word for him at the new company, and so he comes in at the end. He's just ready to start throwing haymakers, and Jim, tells him, "Hey, I put in a word for you." And that scene where Daryl just kind of like pops up and like he's just completely gone in the face, and like spins around, does a little dance, and then falls backwards on the table, and all the food comes flying up. When we watch that episode, Hope and I will rewind it probably 4 or 5 times, and there's tears in both of our eyes. Like it is one of the funnier moments for me, watching Daryl fall backwards on this table, and the punch falls on him, and then the delayed reaction of the table like breaking a second time. It is the Glühwein is
a work
fantastic.
of art.
Yeah.
Work of art. Well, Kent, thank you for joining us today. It was good to get to know more about you. We'll look forward to seeing you guys next time with another one of our staff elders. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you soon.